Welcome to part 2 of my amazing 6,500 mile road trip from California to Pennsylvania and back in a Porsche 911. This video covers the trip home, which spanned 9 days with some amazing stops along the way. The fact that I did this journey with my son also makes it really special, and I hope this is a memory we'll both cherish forever. In this video, I'll show you not just the interesting things that we saw on the road, but also the sights and cities that are worth checking out if you are planning a similar adventure. We spent a few emotional but necessary days in Pittsburgh. The whole family was together for the celebration of Dad's life. This was the reason for the journey. But before we could begin the journey back west, the 911 needed new rubber. The sudden, violent thunderstorms that we hit on the way out and the subsequent hydroplaning meant a stop at Discount Tire for some new Michelin Pilot Sport 4S's. Safety first for the long drive home. And our first order of business was in Ohio for one of my most cherished connections. I recreated this photo taken 28 years ago with our friend Mike and his Porsche Speedster. This was the first Porsche I ever drove when I was 17, and it felt like another beautiful piece of history lining up on this trip. And yeah, so I swapped co-pilots. Drew had done a great job, but now I had my 16-year-old son with me for the trip home. I even got behind the wheel of the 911 for the first time, and we did a quick practice drive around Mike's neighborhood before heading towards Cleveland. My boy's a good driver, and this felt like a passing of the torch.
All right, here we are, Mike. We're at Slyman's, your recommendation. We're gonna go check it out. Should be good.
After lunch, we didn't linger long in Cleveland. Just a quick look at Lake Erie before heading west. We had gotten kind of a late start and planned to get to Detroit today.
All right, so we are on day one of the return trip back to California. Probably going to take about 7-ish days to get back. And yeah, so we left Ohio this morning. Actually, it wasn't really this morning. We left like kind of close to noon. Stopped in Cleveland for lunch. Awesome lunch at a place called Slyman's Deli. If you haven't been there and you're in Cleveland, freaking stop. It was like the best corned beef sandwich I think I've ever had. Not really sure what we're gonna do in Detroit. I don't think there's a whole lot going on, although Detroit has been making a comeback. I think we're just gonna check into the hotel, maybe do the little Riverwalk thing and check out that area downtown, and yeah, press on. So today I think is one of our lighter driving days. It would probably be about, I don't know, maybe 250 or 300 miles. Pretty reasonable amount, but we're making good progress, and we just went through Sandusky and kind of across like this little part of Lake Erie, which was kind of cool. So, all right, let's go. Oh, they got a Lotus Emira parked out front. That's cool. They got a Lotus owner works at the power plant. Yeah, downtown Detroit. Nice weather. Lots of big buildings here. Check into our hotel and maybe go walk around a little bit.
Detroit is a cool city, surprisingly calm and beautiful along the waterfront. And the GM Renaissance Center is unbelievable. It's a massive, towering cylinder that feels like the set of a sci-fi movie. It's a shopping mall, a car showroom, offices, restaurants, and a hotel all rolled into one. And you can see Canada just across the Detroit River. And it's really interesting because the border control is actually at the base of the GM building. We checked into the famous Fort Pontchartrain Hotel, a spot where celebrities stay and the NFL draft happens. Then we explored downtown on foot, hitting over 15,000 steps, checking out iconic spots like the Shinola Building and Woodward Avenue. We finished the day with a mandatory stop for water ice, a Detroit specialty that is like super sweet shaved Hawaiian ice. Detroit turned out to be a fun spot, and we enjoyed our short time there. Really seemed to like the drive, just talking and joking around, and really that's what this is all about after all. The bond that comes with a long road trip. Surprisingly, we actually didn't go out to dinner in Detroit since we still had leftover Slyman's corned beef sandwiches that we'd put in the cooler in the car. Anyways, Detroit was a success. Tomorrow, the 911 points west again as we head through Michigan on the way back to the heart of Route 66, Chicago.
All right, here we are, day 2 of the road trip back. We just left Detroit. Detroit was awesome, by the way. If you are in the Midwest and you're thinking about going to Detroit, you absolutely should. Really cool downtown. You can do the Riverwalk, some good places to eat. It seemed just like a very trendy, cool city. So yeah, check out Detroit. Now we're off to Chicago. We got my son driving, obviously, because otherwise I wouldn't be filming this straight into the camera. And yeah, next stop is Chicago. Need tires? We got Uniroyal tires. We got Michelin's on the Porsche though. The American Bridge Company. I guess they build bridges there. That is crazy. That's a huge, huge factory. Tank over here.
We tried to break up the highway monotony by detouring onto Old Route 12, and while it didn't get us quite as close to the lake as we'd hope, it kind of had that Route 66 feel, slower, going through small towns, and just a welcome break from the relentless interstate driving. But the true challenge of the day wasn't the 300 miles, it was the insane heat. We hit Chicago under a heat advisory, and the humidity was something that I haven't felt since I had been to Singapore. Now, coming into the city, the traffic immediately reminded us that we were back to a major metro area. We tried a quick stop at Rainbow Beach by Lake Michigan, but it was a little bit sketchy, so quick selfie and then we bailed. Luca joked that we should check out O-Block, which, thank goodness, we didn't do. We checked into the Best Western River North. The parking was actually pretty decent for Chicago, but the hotel itself was definitely the worst of the trip. Hey, at least the air conditioner worked. This was probably a bad idea, but we immediately set out to explore on foot, racking up over 20,000 steps, and I thought I was gonna die from the heat. The streets were sweltering. Our saving grace was discovering the underground pedway. It was air-conditioned, mostly empty, and it was a total godsend for moving through the city without melting. Then we hit the obligatory stop, the Bean in Millennium Park. Now, this is kind of a silly sculpture, but it was actually really cool, and there were a lot of people there. We got some cool photos. We grabbed some Dippin' Dots, the only food that made sense in the heat. After a much-needed cold shower, we went to Rush Street for dinner. We were trying to go to Gibson's Steakhouse, which was recommended by a friend. But the area is insanely posh. There were Ferraris and Lamborghinis parked outside, and everyone looked perfectly put together despite the 90-degree heat. We couldn't get into Gibson's, but we settled for Rosebud's Steakhouse nearby. We ended the night walking back along Michigan Avenue, and even after sunset, the air was heavy and hot. But walking around the big city with Luca was great. He was just taking it all in, not taking pictures, and just soaking up the big city atmosphere. It's exactly the kind of bonding experience that I hoped for on this drive. We were up early the next day for the main event of Chicago, the famous architecture boat tour. Now, I'm not going to give you the whole tour in this video, but it was amazing. Unfortunately, it was already brutally hot even in the morning, but the tour is well worth the effort. The city's history is best told from the river, and I learned that if you sit near the front of the boat, there actually is a little bit of a breeze. Now, Chicago is an architectural marvel. There are so many hidden gems. The former biggest post office in the US, built for the huge catalog industry, and buildings that go 100 feet deep to reach bedrock. I love the hidden aspects of the city, like the underground train station and the residential buildings that have private boat parking right underneath. We ended up Ubering back to the hotel to save a little bit of time. We packed up the 911 and we prepared for the long haul to St. Louis. Getting out of Chicago, there was brutal traffic, but a friendly thumbs up from a truck driver downtown was a nice moment of automotive appreciation. Thankfully, on the way out of town, the Route 66 guidebook delivered once again. Take that, ChatGPT. Lunch at the legendary Delaware Chicken Basket. It's in a weird location now, kind of like right by this Target, but the classic Route 66 decor is still there, and the buffet was amazing. But the best part was the bizarre dessert, sweet, fluffy corn fritters. Don't knock it till you try it.
WeatherTech headquarters here. They own a racetrack by us. It's called Laguna Seca. Man, this is a massive operation. Who knew that selling floor mats could be so lucrative? One of the few other Porsches we've seen on the trip.
Left onto South Prairie Avenue, then turn left onto West Main Street.
Here we are in the little town of Dwight. We are going to check out the historical train station here.
Got the little downtown of Dwight here.
This was kind of an interesting little connection to Germany and the Porsche 911. Springfield, of course, is Lincoln country, and my son is really into history, so this side quest was a pretty big hit. We got there late, but the entire couple of blocks around President Lincoln's home is a beautiful park. And I gotta say, I was a little surprised that there was actually a Porsche dealership in Springfield. We also visited the Lincoln Tomb, which is impressively massive from the outside. This was a really nice educational stop that reminded us of the deep history in this part of the country. It was starting to get late as we left Springfield, and we knew we were going to have to get dinner before we got into St. Louis, so we tried to go to the Luna Cafe. But really, they only serve drinks. Apparently, this is a bar where a lot of old mobsters used to hang out. Don't know if all that's true, but it was definitely worth stopping by and taking a look. We were back in St. Louis for the second time in 2 weeks, a city that I'd never been to before this trip. Luca was keen to experience the Arch tram ride after Drew and I had been raving about it all week. After nearly missing the hotel breakfast, for some reason they were cleaning up early, we made it to the Arch right as the heat advisory was kicking in. And going back to St. Louis meant I got to complete the St. Louis to Chicago leg of Route 66 that I missed on the way out. Since the next tram didn't leave until nearly noon, we had plenty of time to explore the museum and enjoy the air conditioning. I pointed out to Luca how his great-grandfather Howard shipped the steel for this incredible structure from Pittsburgh. The tram was just as cool the second time, and the view was much better. No condensation on the windows today. Afterwards, a quick walkthrough of the historic old courthouse with its amazing cupola, and then it was back to the AC inside the 911. As we were driving out of St. Louis, I couldn't help but notice one of the most complicated directional signs that I'd probably ever seen. All right, so we just left St. Louis, Missouri. I guess this is day 3 of the drive home. Yesterday, before we arrived in St. Louis, we actually did the boat tour in Chicago, which was awesome. And now we are heading on to Kansas City, Missouri. We're going to stay on the Missouri side of Kansas City. And it is freaking hot, man. You have no idea. It's been so humid and so hot. It is actually like really
nice to just be in the car with the air conditioning. This is on the way to Kansas City. We're about maybe an hour, I guess we're about 46 minutes away from Kansas City, Missouri. And yeah, just getting a look at the landscape, and also the sky looks like it's gotten a little bit darker, and I think we might be getting some rain soon. But very nice out here, kind of at sunset time. It looks a little bit more like it did in Illinois and Indiana and stuff, Ohio, less Ozarky, which we saw closer to St. Louis, which was a lot more trees and stuff, a lot more fields and crops and stuff being grown down here. But yeah, pretty nice. We are chugging along.
Now, as we pulled into Kansas City, the skies opened up. The rain started hard, but the new tires on the 911 were a game changer. The confidence and grip that those provided in the heavy rain was phenomenal. A huge difference and a great reminder that fresh rubber really helps make the car feel so much more confidence-inspiring.
Use the left lane to take the ramp to Truman Road.
Was Harry Truman from Kansas City?
In 1,000 feet, turn left onto Grant Boulevard.
Because there's a lot of stuff about Harry Truman here.
We checked into the Home to Suites where the desk clerk was genuinely impressed by the 911 and the road trip story. Then the real mission, Kansas City barbecue. We tried for the iconic Joe's Kansas City, the one in the gas station, but the line was way too long, and we pivoted to Q39. I had the burnt ends and brisket, and I had a burnt ends burger. Kansas City barbecue is different. It's all about that tangy, sweet and sour sauce. Now, day 5 was our biggest mileage challenge yet, 608 miles to Denver. But before the long drive, we made a quick stop at Kansas City's Union Station. The building is incredibly grand, but it was the small model train exhibit inside that got me. It really made me think of my dad, who would have absolutely loved it. Now, Luca made fun of me for taking so many pictures, but honestly, the history was worth it. Luca started off with the driving, doing a solid 2-hour stint and even hitting, I think, 96 miles per hour. He's getting more comfortable with the car and the open road. But Kansas is mostly flat and boring, which meant just a long day of racking up miles.
We're not stopping here, but this is Topeka, Kansas. Looks like probably one of the bigger cities in Kansas that we'll see. All right, so we're on the next day, and we are driving Kansas City to Denver. I just saw a sign on the side of the road. We're on Interstate 70, and there was a sign on the road that said the next 8 miles are the first stretch of interstate highway ever made in the United States. So that's kind of cool. I guess Route 66, which probably would have been older, was not considered part of the interstate system. So maybe that's where that's coming from. But anyways, we're going across Kansas. It largely looks like this. And pretty smooth sailing. Good road conditions. Stuff's in good shape. Not too much traffic. We've got a little bit right now. But overall, pretty good. One thing that I've noticed is that a lot of these states really keep their roads in awesome condition. They always seem like they're maintaining them. They're in good shape. It really makes the roads in California look like shit, to be honest. So yeah, California, get your shit together. Make your roads better. Okay, that's it for now.
Our gas stop in Abilene, Kansas was kind of bizarre. The cheapest option, besides the E85, was actually the 93 octane. I was a little bit wary of the potential E85 ethanol content that they had in all the gas in Kansas, but the 911 seemed to handle it fine. It didn't care at all.
Downtown Abilene here, which is the town that Dwight Eisenhower came from, and we're going to go check out his childhood home cool little downtown. Your little main street here.
All right, so here we are at Dwight Eisenhower's home. Former President of the United States. And very interestingly, there is a shooting range right by us here, which is also right next to a public library, which is funny because you can hear the guns going off. This is the Abilene train station, it looks like. Doesn't look like it's getting used anymore. But they got tacos and burritos at the original Grande. Wild Bill Hickok. Car or truck just randomly pulling out. Long Oil Company. Definitely a neat little town, Abilene. Hard to believe that this place produced a president, but you know what? Different times back then. Oh, here's Ike on the mural. Pretty cool. Alright, so we are still in Kansas. Kansas is a big state. It's really flat, and the roads are really straight. This is about what Kansas looks like. Yeah, so I'm not going to show you too much of this because you'll be bored and you'll turn off the video, and that won't be cool. But we're going to make it to Denver tonight. We've got about 3 hours and 4 minutes left. There's also, I think, a time change, so we're going to get an hour back, which would be cool. But yeah, not a lot in Kansas. Not a lot of places to stop. To Colorado and made a little pit stop here at the rest stop in the Colorado Welcome Center. Checked our tires, and we're getting back on the road. There's like an old-timey place here, which is kind of cool. All right, who says a Porsche 911 is not practical? We got a phone, we got 2 cup holders, and we got an extra phone holder here. Very good innovation. Just clicked over 5,000 miles on the trip so far here, which is a pretty big milestone. We're in Colorado now. The roads here suck. I-70 or Interstate 70 through eastern Colorado is in a super not great condition. It has these gnarly seams. The right lane is super potholed. Okay, maybe this will be a little better now, but we just did like 40 miles of that seamed road. Not good. Tiring. We also need to get some gas, so we're gonna stop and get some gas. But yeah, 5,000 miles. I really should change the oil probably, but I'm just gonna have to wait until I get home to do that because I don't have all the stuff to do it here with me. I probably could, but I don't know, just not worth it. I'll do it when I get back. All right, so check this out. This is a truck hauling one of the blades to one of those giant windmills, and it is so big. And there are 3 of these trucks here, which they're just huge. It's so long. It's the longest truck I've ever seen. Had no idea these were so big. Backing that thing up does not look easy. Alright, so 2 things. 1, it looks like we're headed straight into a storm here as we head into Denver. And 2, you can see the Rocky Mountains off in the distance. After miles and miles, hundreds of miles of just flatness, we can finally see mountains and something that is not flat. We're also close by the Denver airport, which apparently is full of conspiracy theories. Check out the YouTube videos about those.
I spent a lot of time watching YouTube videos on the drive today while I listened to some podcasts, but the quiet moments gave us some time for great conversations. He was still kind of giving me a hard time about taking so many pictures, which led to a good chat about living in the present versus creating memory dividends for the future, and how thinking about the finite nature of life actually is a great motivator to get out and have experiences like this. As the sun set, we started to pull into Denver, and I was genuinely surprised because my last memory of this city a few years ago was just kind of like rundown areas, but the downtown now is beautiful and super hip. We arrived on a Saturday night, and the streets were packed with people dressed up and enjoying the much cooler weather. I loved the old neon signs lighting up so many of the buildings. And we celebrated this big, epic 608-mile day with a steak dinner at the Denver Chop House and Brewery. I'm happy to report this steak was better than the one we had in Chicago. Also, I forgot to get a picture, but at the Hampton Inn, after we told the desk clerk the make and model of the car, she was so impressed with the 911 and the road trip that she gave us her personal parking spot in the absolutely packed lot. Now that is the kind of hospitality that makes these long drives totally worth it. We started our day in Denver with some downtown exploration, the Denver Mint, one of only 2 functioning mints in the US, and the General Capitol building area. There were impressive government buildings, and then completely out of place, this super hip building covered in what looked like, I don't know, eyeballs or something. Next was a quick 28-minute drive to Boulder and a lunch visit with my friend Brent. Leaving Boulder, our goal was Salt Lake City, and that's over 500 miles. We quickly realized that we weren't going to make it. We just didn't have enough time. The Rockies are absolutely beautiful, but getting through Colorado takes time, and we were losing daylight fast. We made an impromptu decision to pivot to Moab, Utah, and this meant a detour onto Highway 128, a decision that paid off immediately. The road is stunning. Totally deserted, following a winding river, and with incredible red rock formations. It was like driving through a movie set. And the timing couldn't have been better. We arrived in Moab right at sunset, painting the whole landscape in incredible colors. Now, in the dimming light, an antelope even ran across the road right in front of us. It was a truly wild and unforgettable moment. In downtown Moab, we were able to get a room at the Holiday Inn Express and then grabbed a quick dinner downtown, served by a waitress who was from St. Louis. And that reminded me how interconnected everything is. Dude, the bees are super attracted to all the other dead bugs that are on the front of my car. I don't know why. They're like... Since we stopped in Moab last night, we had the entire morning for Arches National Park. I was really impressed because Luca wanted to do the full 36-mile scenic tour and even hike over to the Double Arch area. The rock formations make you feel incredibly small and insignificant in the world. It was a really similar feeling to how it was visiting the Grand Canyon. The landscape felt like a Star Wars planet. We barely scratched the surface. It was so hot that we had to limit our time outside of the car and out of the air conditioning. I honestly don't know how the serious hikers were doing it. It was brutally intense, even just for a short climb.
Driving to Salt Lake City from Moab. Literally feels like we're in the middle of the desert, in the middle of nowhere. It's about 99 degrees out. I think we've seen a maximum of about 102. And there is just nothing but a straight road. And it's not even that smooth, so you can't even really go that fast. I mean, I think we're doing about 90, but you wouldn't want to go too much faster than that because it kind of bumps around. It's kind of wavy. And, yep, looks pretty boring out.
Rolling into Salt Lake City here.
In a quarter mile, use the second from the left lane to turn left onto 300 West.
Even though it was like 96 degrees out, we slathered on some sunscreen and walked over to Temple Square. Stepping into the conference center auditorium was a massive relief from the heat. The complex is impressive, and there were these young missionaries that were incredibly friendly. Surprisingly, the main temple was still under construction from the last time that I was here in 2014. But man, it sure was hot out. We finally sought refuge inside the City Creek Mall, which was air conditioned and such a relief. We wanted to get steaks again for dinner, so we went to Spencer's Steaks and Chops, which was excellent. Anyway, the 9/11 is running strong, and tomorrow we hit the final leg, Nevada and the sprint home. Reno is up next.
All right, so it is the second to last day of the road trip, and we are leaving Salt Lake City. We actually just tried to go to the little Salt Lake State Park to try to go in the water because we thought it might be fun to swim in the Salt Lake. But the lady there told us that they had no running clean water because a pipe broke, and so there would be no way to rinse off. So yeah, we decided to skip that, but we are just going past the Salt Lake now and headed home. We'll stop at the Bonneville Salt Flats on the way and just check that out, which is a pretty historic place for a lot of motorsports records and a lot of top speed records, so kind of cool to take a look there.
So over on the right here we have what appears to be, I think, a huge mountain of salt. Man, that's a lot of salt. Alright, one thing I wanted to mention was about the gas mileage that we've been able to get on this trip in the 911. Now, again, my 911 is the 3.8 liter naturally aspirated engine. You know, flat six, you wouldn't think that it's really known for getting great gas mileage, but we did get a best of 35 miles per gallon on the trip. But I think there were two interesting things going on there that may have contributed to that because I haven't been able to replicate it on the rest of the trip. One, I think the tires were a little bit overinflated. And this was partially due because I set the temperatures when they were cold, and then we were seeing outside temperatures of about 110 degrees, and that really increased the pressures in the tires. I noticed that the rears were up to like 48 PSI, 49 PSI when hot, which seemed like a little bit too much, so we actually let some out. And then the other thing was that 35 miles per gallon was when we were at pretty high altitude. It was
There's a lane closure ahead.
It was going through the high desert of Arizona and New Mexico. I think that that probably contributed to it too, because the air would be thinner and there would be less air resistance for us to push through. So I think those are the two reasons why we were able to get 35 miles per gallon on one stretch of the trip. But that's pretty respectable for a sports car. In fact, I think most normal cars would struggle to get that these days, certainly the SUVs.
The next stop was the legendary Bonneville Salt Flats Speedway. We found it, but Speed Week was just getting started, so the flats were closed to the public. Still, we got some pictures by the sign, and I was happy to use one of the atypical driver stickers that my wife brought on the plane, placing it right there on a landmark that is synonymous with speed. I had been kind of sad that I didn't have these stickers for the Route 66 part of the trip because there were just a lot more places that I could have put them, and that would have been really cool.
Okay, we're in Wendover, which is right across the border into into Nevada,
And of course, there are casinos as soon as you get to the border. Gotta have your casinos. Oh, here, we just crossed back over. There's a line in the road.
So we stopped in Wendover for gas and lunch at the exact same pizza place that I stopped years ago after the Lotus owners gathering. Still, $7 pizza and drink is an unbelievable deal.
Right above us, we're going through what I think is an animal overpass. It doesn't have a road, but it's just so that animals can get across the highway, which is a pretty cool thing to do for the animals, because I'm sure that's not cheap to build. Although we've seen zero animals. This is definitely one of the straightest roads that we've seen so far. It literally just goes off to the horizon. Okay, I don't know what just happened, but the trip odometer just reset back to 0 for no apparent reason. I don't know if it got to like a maximum. Maybe it would have been probably, I wasn't really paying too much attention to it, but it probably would have been around 6,500. And I wanted to keep it going for the whole trip to get my total miles, but I guess that's not going to happen. Okay, so I think I figured out maybe what happened with the trip odometer resetting itself, which I was very disappointed about because I had not reset it on the whole trip. But actually, the computer over here, I don't think it reset because of a mileage limitation, but because of the travel time limitation. It hit 99 hours and 59 minutes. And then it stopped, and it has not been incrementing since then. The trip odometer reset to 0 and has done another 19 miles or whatever, but this is no longer incrementing. So a little quirk, I guess, of the Porsche 991 generation. All right, so since we've been in Nevada, I've seen a lot of these like triple semi-trucks like this that we're going past. And I was just thinking to myself, it must be so impossible to reverse in one of these because of all the pivot points that you would have. Maybe they just don't reverse in them at all. Okay, we are going through like a crazy dust and rain storm right now. Really very weird. I drove through this once before and it was like this here too. Whoa, this is some crazy windy and rainy weather. Glad I got these tires. Whoa, huge tumbleweed! Caught that one on video. Whoa! Look at all this stuff! Please don't kill us. If it's so windy here, why are there no windows? Literally, why are there no windows? This is the windiest section of the road we've been on. So we are outside of Reno, Nevada. We stopped for gas. Got on a little detour because there was a big there's some traffic on 80, and it's taking us past these like wild, I guess, power plants. But it is crazy dusty. Oh my God! There's like wild horses. Look at this, Luca. What? Literally unfenced wild horses. That is crazy. And we've got this like weird power plant thing over here, I guess. I don't know, man. Taking us on a little adventure, I guess.
We made it to Reno and checked in to the Atlantis Casino Resort. This was the first time that we actually saw some other sweet cars. We decided to get sushi for dinner at the hotel restaurant, and then after dinner, we drove downtown to get the iconic shot of the 911 parked under the Reno Arch. It was a little bit sketchy, and we just had to sort of park the car and hop out and get a quick picture, but there were actually some other guys doing the same thing with an off-road dirt bike that they were using for a photo shoot for a calendar or a website or something like that. Great minds think alike. We did a little bit more walking around in downtown Reno, but honestly, it was kind of dead. So we ended up heading back to the hotel after checking out these bizarre statues that were on display in the downtown area. But the long day of driving had also led to a final insight about the trip, kind of the duality of life. And we talked about ideas, how you can simultaneously love cows but also enjoy steak. And for this trip, I'm both sad that the adventure is over, but I'm happy and excited to be home. It's a blend of opposite emotions, and this road trip delivered on all of them. We woke up today knowing that this was it, the final day. Our first mission, which was suggested by Luca after consulting ChatGPT, was the National Auto Museum in Reno. Since the hotel was without breakfast, we walked a few blocks for coffee, and it was already hot, but the museum was a perfect reward before the last drive. Now, for whatever reason, I neglected to take any video in the museum. I only took some still photos, but let me tell you about some of the highlights. Now, this is Bill Harrah's former collection, and here is one of the first electric cars. And after seeing mostly old vintage cars when we first arrived, I was really surprised to see an awesome collection of multiple former Formula One cars lining the museum. This was one of 2 gold-plated DeLoreans made for American Express to promote their gold card. And of course, as a Lotus enthusiast, I had to get a picture of these 2. The comedian Adam Carolla also had some of his race cars on display here, and somehow it turned out that he ended up owning a whole bunch of Paul Newman's former race cars, and that makes up a big part of Adam's collection. And the museum had a lot of cool decor, a lot of old automobilia and classic signs and gas pumps and things like that.
All right, so it is day 8. Is it day 8? Alright, so it's day 8 or day 9, I'm not sure, of the return trip home. But we just left Reno and we just entered California, so we are back in our home state. And in fact, this is our last stretch, so we've got about a 4-hour drive to get home to the Bay Area. And yeah, it's one of those things that's kind of bittersweet because on one hand, I am very happy to be going home and sleep in my own bed and not do hundreds of miles of driving every day. But on the other hand, I'm also sad that the road trip's over. It was a really good experience, and I saw a lot of cool new things in parts of the country that I hadn't been to before. So yeah, but now we got the home stretch to do here. Shouldn't be too bad. I'm a little bit dreading we'll probably hit some traffic down in the Bay Area, but that's sort of unavoidable. I don't know, we'll probably stop for lunch a little bit and see what's going on. But yeah, going through the Sierra Nevadas now, second mountain range that we've gone through besides the Colorado Rockies, I guess. So, yep, time to go home. It's been fun. Back to good old Bay Area traffic here.
I'm going so slow on the bridge that I could read these signs. But in commemoration of the blessing of the San Francisco-Oakland Bay Bridge, 1936. Interesting. And it said something about the Pope. A few people asked how I kept the 911 looking so clean in all the photos, but I swear I did not wash this car once on the entire road trip. And you can see that it actually is pretty dirty when you look up close. It's just that white cars don't really show dirt that much. You can see it where like people have touched it or like somebody rubbed up against it or whatever. We also have quite a few bugs and dead things on the front, but I did not wash this car at all during the trip. I mean, it doesn't look bad, but it is definitely dirty. We're going to be giving it a nice wash though and getting it back to good.